In our modern system, it feels as though all we do is work, and that's a major problem. Whether we blame capitalism, AI, or whatever, it all encapsulates into one general trend: cultural decline. We in America, operating off the mental model of the Protestant work ethic, put our necessary work first and put our leisure behind us. While this mental model worked for the time period in which it was founded and produced tremendous results, the modern day has left us the same culture without any of the productive ways to release any of the stress accumulated. People are lonely, broke, and depressed. No one enjoys the modern hustle culture we are in. It feels as though we put in a lot and get very little. But the way to fix this is to change how we as a society, or more so, you specifically, as an individual, view work. Back in the day of the Roman Republic, there were two words meant to describe two different facets of life: otium, or leisure, and negotium, or literally, not leisure. Now, this leisure that is described by the Romans wasn't just sitting around and watching TV and relaxing all day. Instead of explaining directly to you what otium and negotium are, I'll give an example to illustrate it to you. Imagine an individual working a 9-to-5 corporate job, all the tediousness he has to go through, the performativeness of corporate culture, the religious worship of productivity, and all that HR nonsense that he has probably been put through in his work during the years he has been employed there. This is purely negotium. He's not there out of love or passion or even just simple enjoyment. He is there because he is obligated to perform that duty in order to pay for his housing, his clothing, his food, or if he has one, his family. However, when he gets home from work, he gets his fulfillment not just by sitting around and relaxing or by talking to his children or his wife, but rather by working on a wood table, which he has been working on for about a month in order to surprise whoever he's gifting it to, be it his mom or his wife, or even if he's doing it as a side business because he enjoys doing it and gets to make cash on the side while doing it and distressing from the day. This is otium. He is doing this woodworking project in order to feel a sense of fulfillment, like he actually did something other than being what people would call a wage slave. In our modern system, we view a lot of things through a simple binary system. People will say, "Oh, you're not working at your job? Then you must be lazy." However, is that a healthy way to look at it? No. But it is how most people do today. The sad part is, there is an element of truth to it. Thanks to technology, a lot of the hobbyist work that gives people a purpose becomes essentially thrown to the wayside in favor of convenience. This isn't the fault of technology or even conscious human thought, but it's the way we are wired. Throughout history, humans look to take the most convenient route to whatever problems they face. They are very rare when you could find someone who's not like that. Be it practical, logical, even emotional, romantic problems, people will most likely choose the easier way out if it is possible. This leads to a dilemma, which is currently rising. As people lose the ability to afford a family or afford housing, there is less time for otium and more time allocated to negotium. What does this lead to? 3 words: modern hustle culture. People scheming and striving, working several jobs, some of which are gig economy jobs, like being a DoorDasher, another being a cashier in a store. Now, the truth in the matter is that people would be willing to trade leisure more for necessary work while they're young, but only if the juice is worth the squeeze. When boomers and Gen Xers did this in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, even if the dollar had been continually inflating and inflation rates were higher, the dollar still had more power and living standards were still affordable. You could afford rent, groceries, and utilities every single month and still have money left to save and invest, even if you struggled more and worked multiple jobs. In a simple sense, wages had not yet stagnated in comparison to the growth of productivity to the extent in which they are today. If you look at how boomers and sometimes Gen Xers complain about this, there is a reason behind it. They look at what they did growing up, hustling, working multiple jobs. If you have anybody in your life, especially older people, who talk about picking up multiple shifts at multiple different jobs at the same time in order to afford housing, it's quite admirable, but yet at the same time it avoids an actual reality. Everything is much more expensive comparatively. The same wages don't mean the same amount. In fact, if you were to do a lot of these jobs today, they would be complaining about the same issues. The fact that they're not paid enough to make a living. They've already made their living, so they don't care. And this is a sad reality of the culture which we live in. So what is the solution to fix this issue? The simple solution to fix this issue is, again, quite simple. It is to orient our culture less around the old-fashioned Protestant work ethic of work, 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 work. Instead, we should focus more around the Roman virtues of Otium and Negotium, an acknowledgement that work is work and passion is passion. With our incredible growth in technology, we can begin to manufacture society, at least in the first world, which pushes the quality of its people through their own ability to achieve happiness and leisure in the Otium sense, while also performing the necessary obligations to society to provide for themselves. But think about it like this in a sense. We are creating artificial intelligence, which is quickly erasing jobs that people don't want to do. We are creating robots soon enough that will make menial tasks, such as being a waiter, or being a cashier, or being a servant. It essentially would be able to provide people a noble, in terms of medieval noble, lifestyle. They would have servants able to get them everything. This, in a sense, could be good and bad, but we must orient our culture to making it good. You will see in a lot of societies that even though technology comes to them, they're not able to incorporate it in a healthy way. I guess the most recent example for us would be the invention of social media. We don't really think a lot about the positives because our culture doesn't really push the positives. Instead, it pushes the negatives. Women beginning to hate themselves and raising in depression rates. Their depression rates as young women are a lot higher than they ever would. And what's the reason for that? Because of the fact that they always have to look at somebody that looks better than them, according to their own logic. What else? There's also the fact that many people are brain rotting. There's been studies coming out that suggest that these people might hit Alzheimer's in their 30s and their 40s. That's not acceptable. What it would take is a culture that is dedicated to imagination and creativity. It must be nurtured, if you will. This is something which I believe the generations coming up do have the ability of doing. We have the ability to change the world as the world changes around us. And that is what I leave you with today. Thank you for watching.